Artificial love, we just make it up, 'cause reality will never be good enough. And even if it were,
Vine's feet stopped when she heard the footsteps behind her were real, loud, and getting closer. And now she is 100% sure that someone is following her. It's not her hallucination. Terror, cold and sharp, seized her heart as she slowly turned. A man in a black hoodie stood there, his face dark in the shadows, but her breath caught in her throat when her gaze fell on the sharp object in his hand, knife. She gulped in fear. The knife, it was big enough to slaughter her. Run, Ryan, run. If you want to live, run. She spun around and ran with all her might, her lungs burning and feet pounding on the pavement. The man behind her chased after her, his steps heavy behind her. She pushed herself faster and faster until she was in a crowded street. She glanced back. There was no one. He was gone. A shaky sigh of relief escaped her lips as she walked the way to her home. The moment she was inside, she slammed the door shut and slid to the floor, breathing heavily. That was a close call, she whispered to herself. I would have been kidnapped or worse, killed. I have to file a complaint. For days, someone had been following her. At first, she wasn't sure, as whenever she turned around, she found no one. But tonight, she saw him, her stalker. And she was scared to her wits now. She closed all the doors and windows of her apartment and slept. The next day at university, Vine walked through the corridors in daze. She couldn't sleep whole night. The incident was all over her mind, and she was walking lost in the thoughts of her psycho stalker and bumped hard into someone. Papers scattered across the floor, which was in the person's hand. She glanced up, and her heart sank. It was her strict professor, and she is his least liked student. I'm sorry, she mumbled, bowing her head as she scrambled to collect the papers on the floor. A part of her wanted to strangle him for always picking up on her, but the fear held her back. He watched her with cold and impatient eyes. She collected the papers and extended them towards him. He took the papers from her and looked at her sharply. Next time, pay attention while walking, clumsy girl. He murmured the last word, but she heard it. But today, she didn't have the energy to argue with her least favorite professor. So she again bowed and left from there with her gloomy face, while he just stared at her disappearing among the crowd of students, as it was very unusual of her to leave without saying anything, even if she would be at fault. But will Kim Vine accept it? A big no. But today, she didn't say anything. He shrugged it off and walked towards his cabin. Vine sat beside her best friend, and without saying anything, she hugged her. Jess immediately got worried, as she was not a touchy person. Hey Vine, everything okay? Jess asked, but Vine shook her head against her shoulder. Jess grabbed her shoulders and pulled back to make her look at her. What happened? At least tell me. Jess, that stalker, yesterday I saw him. I was about to get killed. And Vine narrated the entire terrific incident to her in detail. Oh my god, Vine, and you're telling me now you should file a complaint against him as soon as possible, she urged, and Vine nodded meekly. Yes, but Jess, I'm so scared. Yesterday for a second, I thought it's my last day, she said, her voice shaking from the horror of yesterday, and tears poured in her eyes. Hey, don't cry, she said softly and wiped her tears. She handed Ryan a water bottle. Ryan took a sip, then slammed it on the table, grabbing her friend's hands. Jess, can I stay at your place till this matter gets closed? Hey, you don't have to ask. Of course, you are welcomed in my home, okay? Ryan nodded, resting her head on the desk. Hey, leave that sad face and give me a smile. Ryan looked at her, pouting, like seriously, but she laughed out loud when Jess tickled her. Hey, stop it, please, Jess. Jess finally stopped tickling her, and they both looked at each other while smiling, catching their breath. The class went quiet when the Professor John walked into the room. He slammed a stack of papers on his desk, and students curbed in silent classroom. All of you have performed very well, he said, but his cold expressions told a different story. You guys are taking it very casually. If you don't want to study, then don't come here. You all disappointed me so much. His eyes scanned the room and landed on her. And you, Miss Lee. He pinned her with a sharp glare, and everyone looked at her, and she stood up, feeling the weight of every student's gaze. You were always so proud of yourself, getting in the top 10, but now you haven't even passed. I was noticing it, that your performance was getting down, but whenever teachers say something to you, you always brush it off like it's a joke, not a life advice. He scolded her sharply, as he was very disappointed in her, no matter what, but he had expectations from her, and so wanted her to prove him wrong for thinking of her as an overconfident student. But guess what? Maybe he was right. She lowered her head, blinking back the tears in her eyes. Her hands clenched into tight fists beside her. She was waiting for him to finish so that she can go and cry in the bathroom, as she doesn't want to cry in front of the class. So tell me, how are you feeling after getting failed for the first time in the test? She bit her lower lip to control the tears, lowering her head even more, and he sighed heavily, his tone softening just a fraction. Listen, Ryan, overconfidence always destroys the person. I hope you'll get the lesson from it and improve yourself. She nodded slowly, and he told her to take the seat. In the whole class, her head was down, and soon after giving other students some peace of mind, the class got over, and Jungkook walked out after handing the sheets to the class president to distribute. Jess placed her hand on her shoulder. Ryan wiped her tears and forced a smile at her. I'm fine. Please take my sheet from me. I need to go, she said, and left from there hurriedly with her belongings. That evening, Jungkook was talking with his fellow teachers when his eyes fell on Ryan, who was walking out of the university looking completely lost. He felt a pang of guilt for scolding her in front of the whole class. Maybe he had been too harsh. Maybe he could have made her understand in alone instead of saying all that in front of everyone. But as a professor, he had so many expectations from her and never expected her to fail. And what made him mad was that she hadn't even finished the test. Her paper was mostly blank. What happened, Mr. John? Huh? His attention snapped back at him. He excused himself and started walking behind her. He followed her for 10 minutes, trying to figure out how to apologize to her, how to approach her without sounding like a creep. It was only when he realized he was being a creep, following his student like an actual psycho. Even though his intentions weren't bad, he watched her, who was walking silently and now turned into an alley. I think I'll just talk to her tomorrow in the university. I don't want to appear as a creep who was following his student. he muttered, turning to leave. Just then, his phone rang in the silent road. He pulled out his phone. It was his mom. Yes, mom. He answered the call, leaning against the wall. Yes, mom, I'll be home before 9. He was talking to his mom when a scream rippled through the silent air. He flinched by the sudden scream and looked around. He found the voice familiar, and then it hit him. Mom, I'll talk to you later. Bye, he said, hanging up and sprinting towards the alley in a hurry. Van was walking towards her home, her heart still heavy from the words which Jungkook had told her. She even forgot about the stalker, and it was only came in her mind when she heard the footsteps. Her heart dropped when she heard the footsteps again. She gulped and with so much courage turned to look behind, but no one was there. But she knew he was hiding somewhere. She cursed herself for coming here. How can I forget about that creep? She started walking fast, and footsteps behind her also increased its pace. I hate you, Mr. John. It's because of you only that I'm here. She ran, but too late. Her stalker was already there, blocking her path with a creepy laugh. She stopped in her track and stepped back when he pushed her on the ground and hovered above her before she can get a chance to get up. She screamed, her eyes wide with terror as she saw the sharp knife in his hand. Leave me, please. Help. Someone please help. She screamed. The sound echoed in the alley, and he pressed the knife harder against delicate skin of her neck, and Vine held her breath. Be quiet, or I'll end you right here, he hissed, pressing the blade to her neck. She pressed her lips together, sealing her pleas. One single word, and the knife will dig in her skin. You are more beautiful from this close, he murmured, his gaze crawling over her. She flinched when he dragged the blade just enough to draw a stinging line of blood. She hissed in pain. I'll make you my doll. Now let me taste your tasty blood. Her eyes widened in horror when he removed his mask. The face beneath the mask was a pure disgust. She began to struggle violently, her movements frantic, earning several more cuts on her skin. Don't resist, doll. It will only hurt you more, he warned, his grip tightening, but she kept fighting, thrashing wildly in his hold to get away from him, and the knife clattered onto the ground because of the force. Seeing her chance, she screamed, but he slapped her hard, silencing her. He grabbed a fistful of her hair, yanking her head back, and brought his face closer to her neck. And she closed her eyes in disgust, bracing herself for the worst. But suddenly, the crushing weight was gone from her. She opened her eyes, only to see Jungkook was standing between her and the stalker. Sir, she whispered, her voice fragile. Jungkook's gaze flickered to her. Don't worry, I'm here. But her relief turned to terror as the psycho took advantage of Jungkook's momentary distraction, lunging forward and tackling him to the ground. But soon Jungkook overpowered the man, and his fist landed a series of punches until he was unconscious. Soon police came, as Jungkook had already informed them before intervening. Wayne stood in the corner in shock, motionless all the time, while Jungkook dealt with the officers. When they finally took the man away and the sirens faded into distance, Jungkook walked over to her. Wayne, he called softly. She looked at him, her eyes blank and hollow, her cheeks stained with dry tears. Everything is fine. He placed a hand on her shoulder. The simple touch was what finally broke her. Her eyes filled with tears again, and before he could say anything more, she hugged him tightly, breaking into raw, breaking sobs. Ryan, he said, his body stiff with uncertainty, not knowing what to do, so he simply patted her back while she sobbed on his shoulder. Her low sobs grew louder as she cried while telling him how scared she was, and he listened her, rubbing her back in a steady, comforting manner until her cries began to subside. He brought her back to her apartment. The silence inside was heavy, thick with the aftermath of violence. "You sit here," he instructed, his voice gentle as he made her sit on the sofa. "Where's the first aid box?" Ryan pointed towards a shelf. Jungkook took it out and knelt before her, carefully treating the cuts and scrapes on her knees and hands, while Ryan stared at him, grateful for whatever he did. "What were you doing there, sir?" she asked when he finally finished treating her wounds on her knees. "Actually, I was following you." He said the truth, and Ryan looked at him, perplexed. "Following me? But why?" "Actually, I wanted to apologize. I shouldn't have shouted at you like that in front of everyone," he confessed, finally looking at her. "Sir, you were right to scold me. And it's your right as a teacher if a student is going wrong way. But I must say, you could have done that in your cabin instead of humiliating me in front of whole class. I only felt bad for that, but I think you were just looking for a chance to scold me as you never liked me," she said, but Jungkook shook his head. "Ryan, it's not like that. It's just I have seen many good students collapsing because of their carefree nature even when they are brilliant and could have done much better. I didn't want that to happen with you." He reached out and held her hands in his as he stared at her tenderly. "You believe it or not, I care for you, Ryan, but I guess I spoke a little too much." "It's okay, Mr. John. You're my teacher. You can scold me on my mistakes. It's just I felt insulted. It's okay. Just don't do it from next time with anyone. It can leave a huge impact on students' mind," she said, and Jungkook looked at her, amused, and nodded. "You want to do something for forgiveness?" she asked seamlessly, and Jungkook looked at her, narrowing his eyes. "I apologized. That's enough. I will decide that. If that's enough or not. You accepted your mistake, so accept your punishment too." Jungkook sighed in defeat. "Okay, tell me. Become my friend. My professor friend. I'm friends with every teacher. It's just you who is left." Jungkook gulped and gave a hesitant nod, although he had a hunch that he will regret it in the future. "You have to give me extra marks in the exams," she added cheekily. "That's cheating, and he started regretting it already. And you'll give me extra classes for free." Jungkook closed his eyes and groaned loudly. "God, what did I got myself into? In a trouble. Don't you know my second name is Trouble?" she said, a mischievous grin dancing on her lips.